I am Vero, and you're watching Modern Immigrant. Welcome everybody to a new episode of Modern Immigrant. Like every Monday, we have new episodes, and this week's episode is in English, as you can tell. Remember that we also have episodes in Spanish. So, welcome to this space where we share immigration stories that are going to empower you and make you feel like you're not alone, because you're really not. We're all in this together. And my guest of this week is going to inspire you like you have no idea with his immigration story and with the work that he's currently doing. Luis Alberto Rosales is here with us today. Luis is going to share his immigration story from Honduras to the USA when he was an 8-year-old kid. He's going to tell us about the actual journey of living in Honduras and walking to the US and how difficult that was, but also how much he has learned from this process, from his journey, and how much he has grown. The positivity that Luis brings to this interview is something amazing. It's something that really made me feel empowered, and that made me feel like it doesn't matter how difficult the situation is or how difficult the present moment can be, there's something positive and something good that we can get out of it. So, Luis is going to also be talking about his projects, his organizations where he empowers other people to create their businesses, to launch their businesses, even if they're struggling with documentation, if they're undocumented. He also has amazing feedback and tips on how they can follow their dreams. Luis is also going to talk about the nonprofit he founded, Love and Fear Foundation, and the focus they have with mental health, raising awareness and connecting people with therapists. So you're going to enjoy this interview. I'm going to leave all of the links so you can connect with Luis and his organizations down below in the description. But for now, enjoy the conversation. Remember that you can check out our Instagram account at Modern Immigrant, where we're going to be sharing tons of information about each of the guests and amazing resources. So also, if you're watching us on YouTube or if you're listening, remember that you can subscribe. That's always such a huge help for us and for the channel. So if you're listening, if you're watching, remember to subscribe and follow us. So enjoy this episode. Thank you for being here. Bye. And welcome, Luis, to Modern Immigrant, to another episode. I'm really excited that you are here with us today.
Thank you so much, Vero. It's my pleasure to be here. I'm really excited for our chat and just to kind of share a little bit about my story.
Thank you. Really, thank you for making the time and what it means to share a story. I know it takes courage and it's not easy. So I appreciate the effort. And Luis, I want to start by kind of hearing when did your immigration story start? I know we're going to get into the actual journey that you told me. It was a whole journey in itself, the leaving the country. But yeah, tell us a little bit about when was this and from where to where were you heading?
Yeah, so I actually migrated in 1997. I was 8 years old at the time, and I was living in Honduras. So I went all the way up to third grade in Honduras. I was able to experience the life there. So I really reminiscent on it a lot from time to time. And after moving here, I was pretty much like everybody else that's migrated. It was a lot of culture shock and just trying to get used to everything.
Mm.
Learning a new language and learning new foods, and I mean, pretty much everything. Your whole world is literally turned upside down, and it's something that has made me the person that I am today. And I realized that I'm not just a Honduran or an American. I'm a combination of these two cultures.
And that's beautiful. I think it is definitely, it's a whole process to get to that realization, right? Like to see yourself as a combination of both. But I can definitely hear how it wasn't that easy at the beginning, right? There was a lot of different things that you have to go through. And I know when we first chatted over the phone, you said that arriving to the US was really tough and was difficult. I wonder if you would like to share with us a little bit of like how was that, and as much as you can remember, of course.
Yeah, one of the main issues that I had moving here was really the language barrier. As someone that used to thrive in school and academics and things of that nature in Honduras, it was really difficult for me to
Mm.
go from a high level performing student to someone that's being placed in ESL classes, remedial classes, to catch up. And that was a huge challenge for me. Coming at the age of 8, it made picking up the language a little bit easier. I will admit, being younger makes it easier to learn new languages. And I remember when I was 8, I would read the dictionary as like for fun,
That's
and yeah, I would
amazing.
have a Spanish dictionary and an English dictionary, and I would sit there on Saturdays and stuff like that. When kids are watching cartoons, I would be sitting there trying to translate what the cartoons are saying so that it could help me to learn the language.
Wow, I can only imagine. I have never heard about someone that reads the dictionary for fun, but I can imagine that you learn a lot of different words.
Yeah, it really helped me to pick up the language quickly, and something that really inspired me, having been placed in a new environment with new challenges, was I quickly realized that I had the ability to adapt and I had the ability to grow. And I learned English, conversational English, within 3 months of arriving here. And I was taken out of ESL classes, and it was
Wow.
such a victorious moment for me. So, it just at a very early age as a migrant, you have to start overcoming
Mm.
your fears and any challenge that really you're presented with. So you have to grow up very quickly.
Yeah, that's a beautiful message too, because it really highlights the efforts that immigrants have to do, and sometimes as we say, like we have to work double or put even more effort, but I think that that can take us sometimes to see those results too, like you did. Like I'm sure you were putting a lot of your efforts into learning this language, because I mean, being able to learn the language in a country is such a huge deal. Like it can make a difference, and I'm sure as a kid in school trying to make new friends, like I'm sure that was really important. I mean, at any
Yeah,
age, but especially at the time.
exactly. And, that was one of just many challenges that we're faced as children when we moved here, making new friends, just knowing about certain, even mainstream culture. Like, I didn't really know about the cartoons people watched here. I
Mm.
didn't know what shows were cool. So you're immediately like out of pocket, and it's hard to socialize.
Mm.
It's hard to find those similarities that bring people together,
Yeah.
and you find yourself being alone a lot of that time, and that's where reading the thesaurus and reading a dictionary become your new best friend.
Definitely. I think we need those things, right? That is, I love that you're saying that. And for anyone who's listening, that's sometimes I ask my guests, and I would love to ask you that, like, what was helpful? And you're saying like books were helpful, reading. If there's anything else that you feel like supported you at that moment when it was really challenging to adapt.
Yeah, I think something that helped me to transition was being able to like talk to people even when I was afraid. I realized that people are more helpful than we give them credit for. Coming from Honduras, I always heard my mom telling me like, "There's no such thing as friends. Ten cuidado. Don't trust nobody." And I kind of like had to let that go and start trusting people just to trust them, just so that I could have an opportunity to make a connection. And again, being 8 years old and making those type of assertions and realizations is something that to this day makes me realize the true power that we have. And if I'm able to survive something at 8 years old that was so drastic, I mean, I can do anything now that I'm 30 plus.
Yes, you can. And I know you're doing it. So thank you for sharing. I love the positive note on the story, because I know it wasn't easy, but it's so beautiful what you were able to get out of there, right? The trust in people. I think that's such a beautiful piece. And I think we need to move towards that, I think, as a society, to open up a little more and yeah, and trust others. And I think it goes pretty, this conversation, or that what we're saying, goes pretty well with my next question, with which, how would you say that your immigration journey has shaped you and how make you who you are?
Um, the journey itself was very tough. It took 3 months to get to the U.S., and you have to walk most of the way, and you're put in situations that you don't know what the outcome will be. And most of life is like that. You never know what to expect from college. You never know what to expect from a new relationship or from a new job.
Mm.
And it helped me to just be kind of a risk taker and to grab life by the horns and just make sure that regardless of how scary a monster can look, sometimes when you walk towards it you realize it's just a shadow of a mouse. And those are some of those analogies that are just so liberating for me. And the journey wasn't easy. I'd like to put a positive spin on it, but that's what we need in this world right now. We all know what our shortcomings are, what we suffered through, and part of sharing the story is healing and just ensuring that people take away that I made it. I'm here today, which means that I've survived 100% of all the battles I've been faced with.
I love that. I need to clap on that. Really.
Thank you.
That is so wonderful. And I think you're talking really about, like, people really say that that's like the key to overcoming fear is really facing it, right? And I know it's easy to say, I know it's not easy to do, but I feel like as immigrants we're really walking towards that thing that scares the most. And you did it as a kid. In the journey itself, as you were saying, like the actually leaving and walking, and then the arriving, right? And okay, what's next?
Yeah, exactly. I want to try to reach a message to other kids who are just getting here and who are coming from countries that are in themselves displaced and they're going through a lot of poverty. Honduras is a third world country. It has some of the highest murder rates in the world. And also Honduras was a communist state prior to 1980. A lot of people don't know that. And it's something that creates a culture in that country that is passed down generation to generation. A lot of machismo and a lot of mistrust and a lot of leading with violence instead of with love. So
Yes.
coming from that already very confusing environment and being put in a whole different one, we have to realize that our life has been saved in one way or another. We're being presented with new challenges, but I think that if I was to choose between growing up in Honduras as a gay male, I would definitely choose growing up here as an immigrant instead.
I see. Yeah. Yeah, like seeing the possibilities that you were able to get, even though it was hard, and even though I know it continues to be hard. And I think I want to ask you, I know some challenges, as for example the learning the language was challenge that it sounds like you were able to overcome pretty quick, right? And you were able to obtain, like, maybe the age helped, maybe the fact that you were immersed in a school. But I know there have been other challenges, Luis, that you continue to live and to deal with until this day. So I wonder what have been some of those challenges, in what keeps you going, right? Because I know you have a mission, and I would love to hear, yeah, what's something that you feel like in terms of immigration it continues to be a challenge.
In this country, there's only certain ways that you can work legally. And in order to do that, you need what we call papers. And I think that, we have to start redefining how we see ourselves. And I like to say that I am undocumented, that, papers is something that you give when you own a dog or you own a house, and it's a form of ownership. And that's why throughout this conversation, you'll hear me refer to myself as a migrant. I believe that saying immigrant and it portrays a negative connotation, like it's against, like you're not supposed to migrate. Migration is something that every species on the planet Earth does. It's something that is an inherent nature to us,
Yeah.
and it's actually what saves our lives. And um, part of migrating here was figuring out, how do I survive? How do I keep food on the table and a roof over my head? And that's literally every immigrant that gets here. They're like, well, what do I do next? And the answer is always work. You need to work. How do I work? And those have been the challenges that I faced. And it's been incredibly difficult to build a career when every door is closed, and you have to create your own door. You have to create the door that you can walk through, not the door that other people are walking through. And those challenges, until today, I'm 33 years old today, and I still continue to experience a lot of that systemic oppression, where I can't apply for certain grants or business loans because of my legal status. And I also don't qualify for a lot of jobs that I would otherwise be a top pick for.
Yeah, I can see how is that challenging, and I think it's also important that you're, giving us that message of like really creating those doors, creating those opportunities, because I want to know if, um, an undocumented migrant, as you're saying, and I think that's a beautiful way to call us, is listening and they want to find those ways to get a job, to open a business, like things that you have been able to accomplish. Where can they go? How can they do this? Because I understand that the system is definitely broken, and although we're seeing some changes, it seems like it's going to take a long time until we see actual change.
Yeah, politics are politics, and they take a long time to actually affect change.
Yeah.
But there is a way today that you sitting at home can make a change in your own life and in the life of others around you. For example, you can reach out to enlightenentrepreneurs.com. It is a website and a company that I have created, and it is designed to help aspiring entrepreneurs to learn how to open a business legally in the US and actually make something that helps them in the long run and can also help their legal case in the long run. There's a lot of other local resources depending on the city that you're in. But the first step is accepting that you need help and then not being afraid of seeking that help. As a migrant person in a new country, we are typically really afraid of going to public offices and asking, like, hey, I don't have a social. What type of work can I do? And from personal experience, I can tell you that it is very scary. You sit outside in the parking lot and you're like, oh my God, am I going to be arrested going into this place? And when you go in, you realize that there's people behind those windows. And even though these are government agencies, there's still people. There's still that human connection. And when you earnestly and humbly go and ask the question, a lot of times you'll find that response. So the first step to becoming independent or having a business of yourself is getting an ITIN. And the IRS, on irs.gov, you can actually find resources for people that can help you apply for an ITIN. And after that, you get a DBA, and you follow the process that any normal American would follow. A lot of times we think that we're disadvantaged, and while we are disadvantaged, everybody has some type of disadvantage, and we have to start going after it and asking the right questions. And when we don't find the right answer, not giving up and just keep trying and trying and trying. In my career, I have worked with a lot of scientists and a lot of scientific research, and I've learned that you have to be an experimentalist and you have to try. You have to try. Think of it like this. We have electricity today, which is something that powers the whole world. It took 1,001 experiments, but when you got the one that was right, it can change not only your life, but the life of everyone. So not everyone can say they want to, create electricity or some type of new product that would change the world, but we can change our own lives, and we can change the life of our families and those friends around us, so that we can change the way that we view ourselves and turn our traumatic experiences into triumphant stories that power us into the future.
Definitely. And we have the power and we have the ability. I think we need to really believe in ourselves a little more than we do sometimes.
Mhm.
We give so much credit to the outside world and what people say and what people tell us, but we're not kind of listening to ourselves and looking at, like, I think as you're saying, like looking at a journey, right? Looking back for a little bit and say, look at all the stuff you have been able to overcome. Like this is you. This is the person that has been able to grow. And I want to hear from your foundation. I think that was a very, very important piece of of the way that we connected in our first conversation. And I think like hearing from your foundation can give us also information of how can people connect with you or learn more about the work that you're doing today.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. This is actually one of my first podcast interviews that I've done. My journey as an undocumented migrant has made me really be focused on, making sure that I'm okay and that my family is okay. And now that I have accomplished that, I am ready to share it with the world. And what I'm doing is I live in West Los Angeles. People can find us here. I have a family of companies that includes 4 companies, which provide products and services to help people become empowered to launch their own businesses. And then I also have a nonprofit foundation called Love and Fear Foundation, where we help people like you and I find mental health help. Not only here in the US, there's a particularly poignant point that our foundation looks at. I am from Honduras, and there are many therapists in Honduras that give really high quality services that if we lived in Honduras, we couldn't afford. Just the same way you can't afford premium services here.
Here, exactly.
So leverage yourself, be resourceful, think outside of the box. You can reach out to a therapist in Honduras and pay a fraction of the cost and get top level treatment. So make sure that you're getting help from someone that knows where you're from, that understands your struggle, and that knows who you truly are on the inside. And this is something that revolutionized my life and the life of my family.
That's amazing. That's such an impressive work because and I want to ask you, I'm interested in learning like your own journey with how was for you trying to find mental health services like prior to creating this amazing platform, because I think in my own experience I have been seeing my therapist from Venezuela still until today, and I'm gonna be here for about 8 years now, and I'm always kind of checking in with her over the phone or Skype or whatever, and I haven't had like I haven't felt like comfortable enough to go to therapy here because it's also more expensive because when you don't have an insurance at the moment. So I was always like postponing that idea. So I wonder if some personal struggles led you to this idea of creating a space like this in your own journey of finding a connection here.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the factors that affects your therapy, and I'm not a therapist, I just speak from personal experience, is language and the connectivity that that person has to your true background. As someone that grew up in the US, I actually have been able to find good therapists here. There's local programs that offer mental health services either through your local city, and those programs are a little bit hard to get into, and you don't get high quality treatment. You can reach out to nonprofit foundations that deal with mental health, and they can provide you with resources and referrals so that you can find someone local that actually can provide you with those services. We're actually partnering up with a few companies here in California since we are a local organization. And these companies and organizations actually deal specifically with connecting Latinx people with Latinx therapists. Now, the reason why we came up with the idea to outsource to other countries is because the majority of us are sons and daughters of immigrants. I am still a first generation. I migrated myself here. My mom migrated here as well. Along the way, while you're developing yourself, you realize that you can't leave your family behind. You're making progress, you're feeling better, but the people around you are not feeling better. As of this week, I have been able to find my own mother a therapist. in another country.
That's so
And I
beautiful.
think every Latino can praise for this day when their mom accepts that they need a little bit of help.
Yeah, how was that journey of talking to her about it? Because it's difficult in our culture to talk about mental health.
Yeah, totally. My um, going through mental health therapy made me realize that I had to discover myself and who I am, and really learn to love that person. When we talk to our parents, it tends to be combative. It tends to be defensive. You're trying to convince them of something that
Mm.
you see that they don't see. My conversation was very simple. I provided my mom a mirror and I told her, this is what you're going through. This is what you've experienced. This is what you continue to experience. And from my perspective, it's way too much for one person. Boom, a light bulb goes out inside their head.
Right.
And she came to me and said, I think I need someone to talk to. I picked up my phone. The very next day, I had her in there.
That's so beautiful. And I feel like, especially like how amazing that you were able to experience that, positive experience with therapy and with mental health, and that you were able to kind of connect your mom with that as well. Because I can only imagine, like, I feel like parents that are first generation also need to talk to someone. There's also so much that they have gone through. And we need that support, whatever that person is, right? Like, whatever that perfect match of therapists is. And how wonderful that your organization provides those connections and a space where to feel safe and to feel comfortable to talk to someone.
Exactly. And, that's something, talking to someone from your own country definitely helps. You are able to let go of the fears that make you not go and seek help here locally in the US.
Mm.
And there's a lot of really great groups here, but for those people who are afraid to talk to someone here because they don't understand the Doctor Confidentiality Act, you can always reach out to someone in Mexico or someone in Honduras or Venezuela or Colombia. These are people that are going to accept you with open arms.
Yeah.
And we need to feel welcome in order to be able to walk into a certain space.
Yeah.
So for me, it's been transformative to be able to help those people closest to me and to be able to grow that slowly but surely, one person at a time. We're changing people's lives. And it's so important to look at your close network, look at your family, because those are the people that are shaping your life and your personality and your mental health.
Mm.
So if you help them become better people, that is a double return on you. You're investing in yourself while teaching others to invest in themselves.
100%. And I can only see how that changes the way you approach new situations and the way you approach new challenges, like knowing that you're building that community and building those connections. I think it is just wonderful. And I really feel passionate about it, and I admire the work you're doing. I truly do. It takes so much courage to do that as well.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I do it because this is what I'm good at. And when I say this is what I'm good at, is I look back on my experiences as a human being and I realized that along the way, in those moments when something bad happened, I was always the person to help. I was always willing to help. I wanted to help. That is your true power. That is your real truth. That is the why that you can use to develop your businesses and to develop your endeavors. Sometimes we get so distracted with normal life that we think just surviving is life. No, surviving is the first step. After that comes the beauty. And I am here to empower those in my community. Anyone in West Los Angeles who needs mental health help and resources, please reach out to us. We are launching a public marketing campaign in the coming months to try to extend these services to a few more people. We believe that quality service is what matters, and we would rather change lives one person at a time than be too busy to help one person.
And that's how true change happens. Like, no, when we're trying to have this crazy amount of numbers and amount of work, like that just doesn't help. It really helps when you're trying to dedicate your time to that one person that needs it. So where can people connect with you if they're listening and they are in that area?
Yeah, go to Instagram, Love Fear Foundation is the handle. And we'll also be sharing underscore entrepreneurs. That's the handle for Instagram as well. And like I said, we have a family of companies, so I'll be sharing that information with you so you can list all of them under the description of the video. But anybody, honestly, nationwide, who just needs help, who needs support, who needs someone to encourage them to keep going, please reach out to us. You know, we may not respond right away, but when we do, we will give you undivided attention as much as we can.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And yes, please share those links with me so I can put them in the episode description. And Luis, you have been inspiring us and empowering us throughout this, I don't know, almost 30 minutes that we have been speaking, really. So this question is a little redundant, but I will love to close or end the interview with a message that you would like to share. And I really feel like, you know, I know it can be hard and it can be scary, the journey of finding that paper that we were talking about, to finding those documents, to getting that stability. But, and I know that a lot of people that listened might be going through that, those visa issues and that struggle. So, what's a message that you can share with them? Because for what I'm hearing, you have been able not just to like overcome the problem, like I think the problem is a systematic problem that we can fix, but you have been able to just continue to move forward, and I think that's where the work really is.
Yeah, my message would be to seek out to community resources that work with your community. A podcast like this provides a small angle of what other people are going through. I have been finding a lot more organizations online. There's Undocu Professionals. They're a great page. That is actually how I've connected with a lot of the other companies I'm partnering with. And they provide workshops for DACA, for different types of visas. And this is real advice from real people that are going through the very same real situation that you're going through. And this is something that we didn't have just 5 or even 10 years ago. So I've seen a massive explosion out there. My advice to you is try again. Try again, be the experimentalist, and just try until you succeed.
That's so beautiful. I get it, I really feel the message. It's really getting to me and my heart, and I appreciate the love and the positivity that you transmit and the try again. I'm gonna hold onto that because I think we have the strength, we have the resilience. We just need to continue to go for it. And as you said, connect with these amazing people. I think, you know, I think you were mentioning 5 years ago, and you're right. Like, since I started the podcast a little over a year ago, I started to discover from a year to now so many different accounts on Instagram that are doing work for immigration, that I'm like so passionate about connecting with them and talking. And this is really the people that I spend most of my time chatting and sending resources and sharing information. And it's beautiful to see that we're growing as a community of migrants that want to help others, right? Like, I think that's just an amazing message, and really reach out and connect. I think that have been one of the most important things in my journey. Just not to stay by yourself with these issues.
Yeah. You know, being alone makes you feel good for a small period of time, but eventually you realize that you need that connectivity, and trying to connect with people from different cultures, it can be very hard. So reach out to that which you know. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to change who you are. Remember who you are. Reach out to those people. Go eat a homemade dish that you really, really love. And remember what it tastes like to be yourself.
Oh, thank you so much. It's such a beautiful message, Luis. All the links and all the resources that we just talked about are going to be in the link of the description, so you can reach out to Luis as well. So again, thank you for being here. Thank you for having the courage to share your story, Luis.
Thank you so much, and thank you for all the work that you guys are doing as well.